what I did was I went over this whole nest with fine charcoal, and I would make directional strokes like that in the energy flow of how the grass is turning and moving and weaving and stuff like that. Notice how the seashell is left alone. I don't think I'm going to shade it with the vine charcoal. I'm going to hold off on that. We're establishing value shapes. We have three things going on. Well, you know, let's just say that the background's one thing, although it's actually two things. So you can see there's four things going on. You know, there's black and white. But let's just look at three things. The background, the nest, and the seashell egg. So you can see it's like black, gray, white. See that? Black, gray, white. Look for groupings of areas of black, gray, and light gray or white. Now what I'm going to do is help that along with this white eraser, and look how we can carry this further on. This needs to be a little bit more white. See that? You know, and I think that here, I hope that my back is not in the way. So like that's gonna be the next thing we do. Like look at this with the seashell. This part there is brighter in value, so I do this. But I do it like so, where I block these things in. I block these things in. And let's see. You know, you gotta, you know, I can even take my left hand here, kind of go in here. If I don't feel right about it, I won't do it. Like, look at that. Highlight right there. Like that. See that? And then here. Then also, watch this. That thing is sticking out. And I'm going to make it a little bit thinner, but that bugger's there. And then look at this. I'm using the corner of my little eraser, and then look at that. This needs to be fixed. I'll come in there later. And I'm very, very cautious about where I'm going to hit this, like that. See that? Like that. Kind of skate along, you know, like that. See that? It's almost like gold. Like something out of Rumpelstiltskin, you know? Weaving out of gold. It's kind of neat. See how that works? Now there's this problem area right here. It's transparent. I got it delineated, but now I got to fill it in. In this case, I have to subtract, because that's what we're doing, folks. We're doing what's called subtraction. And this might not be exactly true to, you know, the actual subject. In some areas, a little bit different. Like for instance here, this shouldn't be there. So what I do is I do this. See that? And come in here like this. We're really, you know, getting in here. This could be a little bit more bright. See that? Quite nice, huh? And there's a bit of stuff going on here like this. See that? Now right here, this has to be pulled out, and so I'm going to do that right here, right now. That's what I really wanted to show you. A little bit of a mess right there, but we'll get it. Now the thing is, I don't think I could have done that with this. But with this, I can come in here now and do the following. I can clean it up, a little peck around here. And I might be able to do a little bit here like that. You see that? So this subtraction thing, I'm going in with the pulling out the highlights, because when you draw, you start shading, you want to establish the contrasts as soon as you can. Sometimes you go in for the black. Usually I go in for the black. And we did. The background is the blackest thing of all. And so that's what we did. And then we kind of got in here and we started working with the gray areas. And then now for the nest, I got it, you know, I didn't attack it with the black, but instead I pulled out the white. So I got the contrast. Because this is layered. You have the background, you have the foreground with the marble, and then you have the nest and the shell. So there's multiple things going on here. This is not an easy drawing. That's why we're going to attempt it. Now, can you find a bird's nest and draw a bird's nest? That's the question, you know. Can I give you a photograph of this? You want to draw a photograph of this? I might be able to provide that for my class. That might be a way. I'm still figuring out how to do this stuff for YouTube. Like maybe I can somehow have links. You know, any demo I do, you can get the photograph and draw. I mean, if you're studying. But the thing is, the nature of this stuff is, like, draw it from life. That's why I didn't immediately think of that. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, you know. And so you know, we're getting some headway, aren't we? And we can come in here with more. Like I know that there's a squiggly pig's tail like that right there. And I can come in here now and really zero in on that and make it better. See that? Comes a time when you got to put down the line charcoal and pick up your value scale. And so I'm just kind of like, I'm going to think of like this area where my pinky is. And I'm going to look at my value scale, and it's sort of, it's between a 80 and a 90. Here corresponds to there. See that? That's what I want to attack. And it's tricky because should I use my compressed charcoal? There's different ways of attacking this thing. And how dark do we want to go? This is a 4B, and we'll see what we can get. So now I'm going to go in for the darkest areas in here, because I already have my gray toned area. Now I'm going to go in for my dark zone. The dark zone. Gray toned and then the dark zone. Almost sounds legit. Okay, get this like that. See how that is? You don't want to go like all over the place. You want to be careful here. Really plan out your strategy. And there's layers. There's like, if you look at this nest really carefully, and again I'll have to bring the camera over there to the nest, but like there's like grass that's going like this, and then underneath that there's grass going like that. These birds are really clever. That's what keeps it from falling apart. Again, that's like, you know, paying attention to your subject, knowing a little bit about what's going on in there. It should show up in your art. So again, I also say get your big and then work small. Like don't start out with your small tip pencils. Get your your chunky charcoal. Like I did this part with and then I come in with the charcoal pencil. So I'm doing this right here. I'm using this charcoal here like this, and then I'm going to take the pencil to it later. Patience is a virtue here, I guess. I'm not fast like some artists. I can be fast. I when I can, when I have to, But patience will go a long way in this type of thing. See that? See all that? That's so beautiful. You know, and I wouldn't have come up with this unless I looked at it from nature. You know, that's the thing. You know, you start learning about how to draw from nature. It's great. There's a school known as the Pre-Raphaelite school, and it started in England, and that's what their focus was. Although their subject was not directly nature, their subject was directly biblical and mythological, and those two areas are for subject or content. But the way they executed it was very natural. They were hip deep in trying to paint every nook and cranny that they could see in a bush, you know, or like a pile of seashells, or animals and people. Like the natural teacher is the best teacher. The natural teacher is the best teacher. Like if you want to learn to draw, you would just draw from nature. I'm going to draw that oak tree as best as I can. The Pre-Raphaelites took what was considered a Western tradition of naturalism, but they took it to the nth degree, where that was their main formal topic, which was painting the best god-darn bird's nest in a composition that might be something biblical, you know? So it's like, it seems like there was two subject matters going on. The story, the narrative, and then just like the way they painted nature. These are the Pre-Raphaelites. And it took to me, you know, in my work, I really had a lot of fun focusing on nature. And it makes me want to go back to that, man. I kind of miss that stuff. And that's why it's fun to do this. I get to revisit that. See how that's coming? Try to do that for the whole thing, and it's still not done. And I'm trying to divide this up into three value arrangement here: black, gray, and white. And then I'm using that to make these shapes, and the shapes get smaller and smaller and become blades of grass. And that's the trick, gang. That's the trick. You know, so remember the whole question about how to draw hair. Well, this will help you draw hair if you did this nest. Or a nest, a bird's nest. Very lucky to have this. It's falling apart, unfortunately. I dropped it more than once, so I should probably take a bunch of photographs of it. And the thing is, the bird's nest, how did I acquire this bird's nest? It literally dropped from the tree, and it was on the ground at the foot of the tree. So I just took it. You know, the egg was gone, or I can't remember what happened to the egg. And I'm going to salvage this bird's nest. You know, I could have, if I left it there, it would have been cut over. It would have been run over by the lawnmower. You know, the guy riding the lawnmower. You know, because that was in an apartment complex, right? So, so you know, or the wind would have blown it away. You start seeing how things kind of turn and move. It's like the flow of energy, you know. That's another thing about this nest that's so cool. I can come over here and flirt with this, you know. So I'm on the upper left, and I'm going to go into here. And there's a lot of stuff that I'm not really paying attention to. Again, you know, I mean, this is not exactly what it is, but I try, you know. But in other things, I go, well, I'm going to leave that out, you know. There's no way I can do this without looking at that. There's just no way at all. Now guess what I'm going to do last in this drawing. Everything's going to be done, but what? the seashell. I'm going to hold off on that. So if this was like a baby sleeping in a manger, does that sound familiar? I might paint the environment and the hay that the baby would be sleeping in, right? The Jesus baby. And I get all that done. And then I just come in there and I do the baby, And that's the way to do it. I mean, that's like, if you have like a composition of like a couple of cats sleeping, in front of the fireplace. It's very, very kitsch subject matter, but still, hey, you have like a dog or a cat, sleeping. You do the stuff that it's sleeping in, and then you focus on the subject. Because in a way, this becomes the subject, by the way, if you didn't know that. What is the subject of this drawing? What's the focal area? The focal area might be the seashell. Very important thing to consider. And that's why I was fortunate to come across this for our next demo. The first one was the pear for drawing from life. And I recommend getting into that, like find a fruit and then draw the fruit. And then this one, find something that's similar to this. Can you find a bird's nest? That was the only problem with this demo, is like how can my class get bird's nests, And I don't know. So, but this is packed with information, I think. Believe it or not, the only thing I did was to continue what I did here all into here. You missed nothing, basically. It's the same philosophy throughout. Now I want you to see some of what that entails for this area. Still using this chunky piece of charcoal. There's some overlapping going on in this area. That's what makes it complicated. This little area here needs to continue underneath like that. You have to follow along the individual strands. Like this goes like this, but if it stops there, it makes no sense. It continues into the shadows deep tucked in there. Look at this strand. So you follow that, and then underneath this one, and it shows up again there. These are really important things to give it more believability. Little overlapping here. See that? Oh, this needs work. We'll fix it up. I'm tempted to pick up the charcoal pencil. I'm tempted to pick up my white charcoal pencil, but that's too premature. This still works for us. We're getting all that bulky stuff and then getting into the detail with this. It works pretty darn good. You'd be surprised what you can do with this technique. A little bit of scribble technique in here. There's all sorts of stuff going on in there. See? But I don't do it all over the place. It might mess it up. A little bit there. Now with this, there's something that crosses over the path of that white string of grass. You see that? That helps it. The beginner would say, okay, it looks done. I don't know what else to do. But there's so much that we have yet to do. Watch this. You soften up certain areas, but leave other areas sharp. That'll create a sense of depth. We haven't even done the seashell yet. Very conservative about just coming in and making marks, and I look, prod along. Just gotta move over here and get in here and mess with that. Just be really careful. Notice how there's no outlines. You see, I'm not outlining anything. Very important. I might define the side of this, but the outline, it's really not there. And we have yet to come in here with the pencil, the charcoal pencil. What would this look like if you combine a graphite and charcoal? Remember we did that for the different shading techniques? I don't think that's wrong. Like you might do something like where you do graphite for the tile or the marble slab here, and then charcoal for the nest, charcoal for this field of black. But the seashell maybe should be in graphite. That would be a nice mixed media, drawing of graphite and charcoal. That might be interesting. So think of that. So like that's Well, actually that's correct. I did that by accident and it's actually correct. So what happens is this goes away. And then look, I'll use my pinky because I'm desperate. Oh, get it done. There you go, see? Crawling along, There is like blades of grass in front of this shell. Like there's like 1, 2, and then 3. Now notice I don't do that yet. Actually, that might be the very last thing we draw. I said that this would be the last thing we do. Maybe that's the second from last, and then those 3 blades of grass, I come over that. That's probably the very last thing we do. What would you find to draw? One of the most annoying things is to draw your cell phone or your car keys. Ugh, I wouldn't want to do that. There's certain things that you just should not draw. It's just like Dullsville. You know, you gotta set yourself up for a fortunate experience. And drawing a car keys or your cell phone, for a real live object, I don't know. I ain't gonna do a demo on that. That's for sure. You won't get it on my channel. So, see how that works? This is great. The white eraser. You gotta get that. Might have been in your way there. Sorry. Getting in here. There's just so many things going on. That goes like that, right? And then right here, this area, that like diamond shape. You see that diamond shape? That diamond shape doesn't exist. It's supposed to be filled in. See that? So what I do is I close in on this stuff. Close in. You have big shapes and then you narrow it down. You make them smaller and smaller. So that's what we're doing. And this is just a bunch of scribble here, you know. It's kind of cool, you know. Like, see that? It's kind of contrast with that, which is great, you know. Mother Nature is full of surprises. I mean, to me, that's all there really is nature. Nature is it. We're just like, you know, offshoots of nature. We're expressions of nature. The universe is expressing us. The universe expressed us through the earth, and then the earth expressed us through her. And then here we are. You know, I like to think thoughts like that. Some of them are way out there, but, you know, as an artist, it's good to think. Good to read. I mean, if stand-up comedians know a lot of stuff, you ever listen to like George Carlin, he used to know a lot of stuff. You know, a lot of stand-up comedians are getting smarter and smarter. Well, I think artists should be just as smart, if not even more informed, you know? Like, you should really know stuff. I really would think that it helps you to be an artist, you know? Knowing stuff. Stuff in science, mythology, you know, religion, anthropology. I took at least 2 classes in physical anthropology when I was going for my bachelor's in fine art. You know, I even took a class in physics, and I took another class in astronomy when I was going for my bachelor's of fine art. And I think it rubbed off on me a certain way. I'm fascinated with like anthropology. Find out what makes you tick. So it's almost like I say, the beginner would say, "Oh, it's done," you know. I can't do that. And we're like, "No, it's not done, and you can. You just gotta, you know." Well, maybe some of us might not. I don't know. I mean, there's a book by Betty Edwards, Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. She shows how a lot of people who apparently didn't have any drawing skill turned out to be really good artists. or at least draftsman, you know. So that's why I say, you know, never say never. You know, she's definitely a superior art teacher. Drawing on the right side of the brain. And she uses a lot of these observational things. She has like an exercise where you take a photograph of, like, say, Albert Einstein, and you hold it upside down, and then you draw it. Because you're worried about the face and the identity of what you're drawing if you look at it right side up. Put it upside down, now you're looking at a series of curves, lines, tones, shapes. That's why she did that. Why don't we do that? You'd think that I would show you that. There's just so much stuff that, you know. The whole measuring technique that I had you do with the drawing of the guy and the girl I did, that leads into this. So my whole thing is it has to be consistent. I'm just one of those people that need consistency, or else I get lost. Although I tend to go all over the place, you know. That's my nature. So I need some kind of a anchor to pull me down to earth. And so that's what it is, consistency, if I can get it. Watch this. I can go like this with this blender and go like this. See that little strand of grass there? I can do it again right here. And I'm not making it up. I actually see something like that right there. Then I see another one like right there. But I don't go hog wild. I'm conservative. Right here at the end of this, there's a dark area.